Welcome to another episode of the Money and Business Hero podcast, where we talk about the three pillars of financial success: money mindset, money management, and money making. My name is Florian Fritz, and I have another very special guest for you today, and that is Jason Skeesick. He's an entrepreneurial evangelist with military mindset and the spirit of the puppy, and I'm very much looking forward to an explanation of that. Today, he helps passionate entrepreneurs build the foundations and frameworks they need to make a massive impact on the world. Welcome, Jason, to the show.
Florian, thank you so much for having me. I've already enjoyed our pre-call conversation, and I'm really excited to share with your audience today.
Awesome. Great to have you here. Now, you've done so many things. You have a financial degree. You've been a banker. You had a CrossFit gym. You've been to the military, obviously. Where does the military mindset come from? And now you're a coach, and I think lots of other stuff I missed now. So tell us a bit about yourself. How did you get where you are now?
Yeah, well, you nailed it. I think that if you look at I don't own a resume, and I probably will never have one again. But if I did, it would look like a frog jumping from one lily pad to the next. But there's at each point in my career, whether it was going through the military, whether it was becoming a financial professional in the banking world, whether it was starting a small CrossFit gym in Chicago that grew to pretty good heights, or now coaching other entrepreneurs. At each point along the way, I was acquiring skills, learning more about myself and how I could serve the people that I was serving. And then sort of that thread led me to the next sort of narrative lily pad, if you will. And so it's sort of impossible for me to sit on this side of the call today if I hadn't have done all of those things.
Awesome. And yeah, what are the most important things you learned on those jumps from the lily pads to the next?
Yeah, so you hinted already at two of my five core values, and those are the two that I share most often, though all of them are public, of course. And that is the spirit of the puppy and military mindset. And so the spirit of the puppy, to me, I was born with that. That's high energy, gregarious, loves to meet new people, loves to try new things, playful, high energy. You know, if you walked in the front door of my CrossFit gym back in the day, and I was in the very back, you'd see my arms come up and, hey, how are you? And I'd welcome you into the room. That's just the way that I am, like my two Australian Shepherd dogs that are in the other room, very much interested in those types of things. But you can imagine where just that might have led to a less focused and less successful career if I wasn't thinking about it and deliberate. And that's one of the main reasons why I enlisted in the United States Army. That is where I got my second core value, which is military mindset. So that's always showing up when I say I'm going to, never letting people down, stepping forward when there's an opportunity to take responsibility for something, and building stuff, right? So it's that hard work and that discipline and focus that applied to the spirit of the puppy has sort of gotten me where I am, to whatever success that really is. It's gotten me to where I'm at, and I use it every single day. And more importantly, it helps me to know if a person or a project or an opportunity is worth my time, because it must meet both of those, in fact, all five of my core values, in order for me to even consider it these days.
Oh, that's cool. Now, since you have five core values and we've covered two, what are the other three?
Yeah, so two of the core values, the first two that I've already covered, describe who I am as a person. But my core values diverge from there. So head up, feet moving is how I do work. So I'm super hard charging towards whatever project I'm working on, but my head is always up and I'm always ready to pivot if I need to. That's been something that I learned from the military and entrepreneurship. How I communicate with others, I use the word tribal. And so if you see me in a CrossFit environment or a jiu-jitsu gym, or even at a conference with other entrepreneurs, you'll see similar clothing, you'll see similar language, you'll see similar attitudes and postures. I'm a very tribal person, and that's how I relate to others. And invested is the fifth core value, and that's what gets me out of bed. I'm invested in myself. I'm invested in my family. I'm invested in my clients, in my product, in the message that we put out publicly into the world. I am invested. And so that's what gets me out of bed every morning.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Now, it sounds like you've thought quite a lot about these values. Mm-hmm. So you found the perfect name, the perfect description for everything. How important do you think it is to know your values so detailed?
Well, I would say that question answers itself in that your core values already exist within you. They're not who you wish you were. They're not who you want to be, or who McDonald's or Apple or some other company, Tesla, has said that they are. And so, this ember that burns inside of you is your core values. And it's up to you whether you choose to reveal and define it. But I have found personally that it's incredibly useful to have it because now I can understand those forces that had been acting in me one way or another that I had not yet put a name to. Does that make sense, Florian?
It does, but it sounds too easy, I think, now. You say, okay, it's obvious, it's in you, and everybody knows already. I don't think that everybody knows their core details so value. How do you like
This is a
crystallize
great
that,
question.
get that out of yourself?
I love that you just said that. And I, first of all, shout out to you for pushing back a little on a guest. A lot of podcast hosts won't do that. I would say the simplest thing that you can do is not always the easiest thing that you can do. And so the tagline for my company is winning is simple. It's not winning is easy, Florian. And so let me put it to you this way. Imagine I was giving a friend advice. If I'm giving that friend advice, I have imperfect information about the situation and the friend, but it's very easy for me to tell if the advice is good. Oh, this girl is bad for you, or oh, that job makes you upset, or you shouldn't eat that, it's bad for your health. But I don't have perfect advice. Or if I try to coach myself, I have perfect information. I have all of the details, all of the knowledge you could possibly have about a person, but there is my ego standing in the way. And so the discipline, the practice that you must get into is learning how to set your ego down and stand next to yourself. Because ultimately, if you can do that, you can, by definition, be the absolute best coach for you. And so part of the process of uncovering core values, what I actually do as a third party is ask questions that are designed for that person to step away from their self a little bit and view themselves and their situations objectively. Does that make sense?
Okay, step out of yourself, watch yourself. That's, as you say, that sounds easy, but it's not, or
Right.
simple but not easy.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, watch how you do things.
Mm-hmm. Well, so part of that process, I'll just tell you more tactically. Part of that process is you start by writing down a list of phrases and words that describe you as you are, as you show up. I get up early, or I don't get up early. I am very regimented, or I'm not very regimented, whatever those things may be. But then you include your partner, you include your significant other, you include your children or your parents, people that know you really well without guiding them, and you ask them those same questions, and it very quickly starts to illuminate what those things are. And so now let's say you're left with a list of 50 or 100 things or phrases. You would then start to circle those things that are like items. So for instance, when I talk about spirit of the puppy, that's high energy, pleased to meet you, optimistic, loves to try new things, playful. All those things sort of get corralled together and into the next step of the process. The next step of the process is to start to form those things into ideas and then actually copyright those ideas so that when I convey them to somebody like you, if I say spirit of the puppy, you didn't know what it meant, but I bet you had a pretty good idea and you weren't surprised when I explained it, right?
True, yeah, and especially it makes people interested, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The best ones are that way, where they're not something that you've heard before, but they kind of carry with them at least part of the meaning of what they are.
Awesome. Okay, so you create a list of things that describe yourself. You ask other people that know you well to do the same,
Mm-hmm.
and then you, yeah, make a story out of it.
Yeah, it took me probably it took me probably about 3 weeks, of about a week for me of just adding to this list over the course of that week. And then I took it out to other constituents. I had a team meeting at the time with my team who knew me very well and asked them. With my wife, I did it. And a couple of my friends, I did it. And by the time I got done, to be honest, the whole time it was starting to the outline was starting to make itself clear to me. But by the time it was done, I just sat down and I actually, no, I think I went on a walk and just thought about these concepts and what they really meant at their core to me. And I will say that I've done core values with people where they're a little more overt, they're a little more straightforward. They're not all as, playful or cryptic as mine are. But that's kind of a part of my core values. So you wouldn't be surprised, right?
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. It's your values and not anybody else's, right?
Exactly.
Now, why is it important to have that? Why would anybody take 3 weeks to do that?
Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur or even just somebody in corporate world, I want you to think about two things. One is a goal or project that you really wanted to hit that you didn't. The other is a goal or project that you really wanted to hit that you did. So it'd be four things, I guess. One is somebody you enjoy working with and it's so easy and effortless and you never have to argue or butt heads. The other is somebody who you think you should enjoy working with, but for some reason there's always conflict. If you have core values, you can hold them up to those people and they will qualify within those core values appropriately. So I'll give you an example. I can think of the former employees that I've had and the ones that have worked out effortlessly, where I just showed them how to do things and just kind of wound them up and they were able to go and go and go. Some of those folks still work for the company 2 years after I sold it. Those folks are perfect core value fits on all five pieces of that five-sided puzzle piece. The folks where I liked them and they understood and they were on board with the mission, but for whatever reason, every time I would send them into the field, something would be wrong, something would butt heads, or they didn't like the way that I chose to go about doing it. Those folks, when I hold them up, oh, that person was military mindset, but they had no spirit of the puppy. Or, oh, that person was both of those things, but they weren't tribal, so they never engaged with our clients in the right way, or whatever it could be. But I can hold them up into the reverse. So that was the proof when I first started. Now I have about 5 years since I did that exercise where I can tell you every time I make a new hire or a new decision to go down a path in my business, I hold them up to that rigor, and almost without fail, it gives me an incredibly clear picture of how it's going to go.
Okay, so it helps you assess, first of all, new people you want to work with or not want to work with,
Yeah.
or new projects you want to get into or not get into.
That's exactly right. There's somebody, I will say there's somebody that a few people I can think of that have that represent unbelievable opportunities financially that I have refused to work with just because they're not core value fits.
Awesome. I think that's very valuable. So everybody take your 3 weeks and or however long it takes for you to define your core values. Now, before you had your core values, I think that happened that you switched from being a banker, I guess that was being employed,
Yes,
to
sir.
opening your own gym.
Well, it's funny. I actually did both at the same time. So when I got back from the Army, I did two things at the same time. I enlisted in school for finance, and I started a gym at the same time with two other veteran friends of mine. So that was concurrent at the same time. So in fact, it was probably the thing that saved me, because while I was on the 57th floor of a beautiful high rise in downtown Chicago, working on a $25 million deal, all I could think about was my dusty CrossFit gym with, 90 members and $9,000 a month of revenue, and very, very small. And that was actually a really, really powerful force that showed me what I should really be doing with my life, which is building tribes and helping people to change their lives.
Okay, great. Now, did the experience as banker help you in your business?
Immensely. And so ever since I started working with other entrepreneurs, first with fitness entrepreneurs and now with really passionate service entrepreneurs in general, I realized that even though we speak the same language almost every single time, there are technical elements of my education and my experience that almost none of them have been privy to. So as a commercial lender in the middle market, you're dealing with companies that are 10 to $150 million businesses, depending on the type of business. And so one day I might be looking at a brick manufacturer, and the next day it may be a law firm, and the day after that it could be a software as a service technology company. And as I'm sure you know, Florian, these are very different collections of cash flows and procedures and assets and employees. And so finding value and underwriting to risk and value and understanding the complexity of all that prepared me I don't know, immensely more than if I had just had an interest in fitness and decided to open a business. The most important stuff, though, has kind of been simple. It's not complex ideas that I've helped people with as much as it is what I would say is simple understanding of what drives value or what may drive risk or what may retain and grow wealth in a business.
Okay. Well, I find that lots of people know what they're doing. They're very good at what they're doing, but yeah, they're not so good at money and finances, right?
Yeah, I would say that the person that I help the best is the person who has become adept at breaking down brick walls. They can do everything in their business. They love the fulfillment of their business, whether it's product or service. They wear all of the different hats. This is actually the handcuffs that are keeping them from getting to the next level, because ultimately, to scale your impact, to scale your mission, it can't live only between your ears. That magic between your ears needs to be scientifically codified in order to build a team that can go out and energize your mission as it needs to be for masses. And so that's actually what I specialize in now, because it's very difficult. As someone who was born to swing a sledgehammer, Florian, it's very difficult to put it down and learn how to pick up a keyboard for a spreadsheet, or to put together, SOPs and training documents.
So you help people build the right teams now.
Yes. So we build foundations. Say again?
Is that the main thing, how you help business owners?
Yes, sir. So what we do is we do two things. Have a course that designs your foundations of your business, things like core values and mission and goals, and then frameworks for your business, things like scaling that out to a team and helping them to energize things incredibly well consistently. And then the third phase of that is flow. Flow is all about managing the team from the field, understanding the metrics of your business that are going to drive your success or failure. And then the second thing that we do is we offer a Spear and Clover Mastermind, which is a group of entrepreneurs, a tribe of entrepreneurs that come together to help each other out. We're always bringing in guest speakers like yourself. I'm going to ask you when we're done recording to join us. And we mastermind together. We peer-to-peer help each other through problems based on our own experiences where we've overcome similar things. And so far, it has been just the labor of love of my life.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, I love masterminds.
Yeah.
When like-minded people come together and solve problems together, it's so much easier than doing everything by yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, is there any, what's the most important tip to building a good team?
I will not hire someone who is not a core value fit, first and foremost. And then just like 1B of that is they have to get energy from the majority of the role that I put them in. So there's 3 types of work, right? There's work that you can't do and you shouldn't do it. There's work that you can do, but it drains you. And every day at the end of the day, you're tired and drained. And then there's work that you can do, like what I'm doing right now, where it seems like no matter how much of it I do, I get off of that work full of energy and excitement. And so what I try to do and really have enforced in the past few years especially is, number 1, first and foremost, core value fit. Number 2, that they actually enjoy and want to do the role that I'm asking them to fulfill.
I think that's a very valuable tip, yeah, or very valuable thing to look at. Does that person gain energy? Now, if I'm starting to build a team, small business or solopreneur, and you say it's a good idea to have a team, which it definitely is, but most people say, oh, I don't want to hire anyone. First of all, it's expensive, then it's a lot of risk. And how do I get started with building that team?
It's a great question. Twofold. One, you should design your business as if it has a team from the first day. And so as you're out there energizing it, you're recording it and you're doing it as perfectly as you can as you're building, particularly once you dial in those processes. That way you can simply hand off roles as your business grows incrementally over time. This has been a huge time saver for me. When I decide to hire someone, the entire portal to hire them is already built, right? That's number 1. And then number 2, I really actually don't think that leveraging human resources is the most effective use of an entrepreneur's time anymore. So you build the team that you need from like a tribal core basis. And then what you can do is you can outsource that to expert contractors in a very tactical way, whether that's by project or by specialty. This is not someone that's a representative of your company. This is someone who is energizing the tactical needs of your company, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I don't need to hire a graphics designer. I can outsource that. Right?
I literally just used Fiverr 15 minutes before we jumped on this call to get my logo animated. Yeah.
Gotta love Fiverr for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Now, one more thing I found on your page that I liked. I love your language.
Thank you.
So graphic. You're asking, or you're talking about how to achieve big, hairy goals as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Why do you have big, hairy goals?
Well, I think that as an entrepreneur, first of all, let's define what I think an entrepreneur is. I think an entrepreneur is someone who sees the world as it could be, and they can't help but take action, right? We're the people who see opportunity to take responsibility, and we don't just raise our hand, we run towards it, right? And so, by definition, if you're an entrepreneur, and you should be, you have big, hairy goals. Right. Or either that or you're not thinking about it enough. And so once you do, it's just like achieving anything in the world. And so any goal setting guru that you've seen on Instagram or on Facebook has more than likely given you good advice. That is to pick a goal that's based on primarily your output, not the inputs you expect, right? So if I want to lose, let's say I want to lose 10 pounds, I shouldn't make my goal lose 10 pounds. I should find out what it'll take habitually for me to lose 10 pounds. And my goal will be, I want to eat healthy on this plan for 60 days. And I want to go to the gym 3 times a week for 60 days, or whatever I estimate will take me to the goal that I ultimately want to achieve. The same thing goes for money. The same thing goes for business. Where it gets more tactical is when there's multiple moving parts within your business organization. So let's say I want to sell 100 new clients next year. Well, the first quarter may actually be identifying and finding a sales process, finding sales team, building and testing ads, building and testing automations for 3 months before you ever, start to actually work your way towards that goal. And so anytime somebody brings me a goal, and I have them do this as a matter of course, I always make sure to scrutinize it to make sure that they've done the work to understand the scaffolding between them and the top of the mountain that they're proposing that they want to climb, right? And so very often, if I hear a round number as a goal, I just know right away that number was picked out of thin air, right? And so then there's 2 problems. The first problem is, do you actually know what it would take to get there? 3 problems. Do you actually know what it would take to get there? Do you actually want to live the life of the person who has to do that and then maintain it? And then third, why is it that you want let's call it $1 million? Is there a thing that you will actually achieve if you had that $1 million that otherwise you couldn't? And so often, it's not that my instincts are right, but so often, as soon as we start to scrutinize those things, you see those goals move substantially, sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes sideways to something a little bit different. But never have I had somebody have a round number goal and then they thought critically about it and they retained that same goal.
Yeah, nobody needs $1 million exactly. What for? What do you want to do with it, right?
I mean, if it's just sitting on $1 million, then all you'll do is watch it go down in value. So
I've never met anyone who said, yes, I need the $1 million to be happy and just to have it.
No.
Absolutely. Well, now since we've arrived at the money topic,
yeah.
How important is money for you?
Well, I always say that I retired in 2018. And I mean that metaphorically, I guess, but my definition of retirement is doing something professionally that I don't want to do in order to get money. And I stopped doing that in 2018. Candidly, I took from November of last year, I sold my second business in 2 years. I took that time off for an entire year in what I call a year of service, where I literally took in zero money. I didn't, and I certainly could have tried. I didn't have any clients. I didn't have any employees. I didn't have any partners. All I did was spend time with my new daughter, Lucy. She was just born, and spent time with my wife. I spent time kickboxing and doing jujitsu. And I started a podcast because I love talking to and serving entrepreneurs. And so that's what I've done for a year. And now when I've gone to build my next endeavor, I didn't start by what could I sell that would make me the most money. The question that I answered, I actually literally went into a sensory deprivation float tank with this question and came out with the business, was what would I stand on a mountaintop and beat my chest about and fight over? And that is the things that we've been talking about today. Things like core values, things like mission statement, things like helping someone who got into their business from passion and now feels like they're in a prison, right? And these are just too many small business entrepreneurs that I meet on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. Now, so money is not that important for you, if I get that right, more the doing something that's aligns with your core values.
Yeah, and I would also add that like a tactical level, I was a poker player and a pool player as a gambler before I went into the military. Another reason why I needed a little discipline. But what it did was it established my relationship with money, which has only been cemented as units. And so when I think of money, I think of units of stored time, of stored effort, of stored work, of the ability to trade for other things, goods and services. I really don't think of money as a thing to want. I think of what money allows me to do as being the thing to get. And frankly, that's only been assisted by the more passionately and core value driven I am, the more the people work for me will do more for less. And the more the clients that work for me will be more raving fans for less. And so because there's this alignment, I mean, you could think of any number of people that you've never given money to, Joe Rogan or Oprah Winfrey, or you may have never given them $1 and they may influence your whole life. And I think it's because they understand that there are far more valuable currencies than just money.
Which leads us to my next question, which is, what's your purpose for money?
My purpose for money at this point, because it's not really for me anymore, at this point, if I had money, more money, lots of money, then I could build a true tribe and community of other entrepreneurs and be able to, what I always call it, making business babies, right? And so if I can rent a mansion for a week and bring 100 entrepreneurs together, how much amazing things could come for the world from that event. If I was able to fly out guest speakers of huge renown that were really impactful and meaningful and pay them gobs of money, how much influence would come to my tribe? And so at this point, the thing that empowers me is so not my bank account, it's so the tribe that stands behind me and shoulder to shoulder with me, because I know, if I want to find somebody to energize, an ad campaign, I have a tribe of people who I trust implicitly who can tell me, oh, you want to work with them, they do a great job. If I want somebody to recommend a podcast like yours, somebody in that tribe can say, oh, that's the one, that's who you want to talk to about money. And so for me, if anything, I want to use money to create tribe, because that to me is the absolute longest and most powerful lever that I have available to me right now.
Beautiful. Thank you. And one more question I have in the money series.
Yeah.
What is your best wealth building tip?
Okay. So the thing I would give you is two. I'll give you two because one applies to half of the audience. If you're a service entrepreneur who has memberships, and you're not capitalizing those memberships, you're doing yourself a disservice. So I'll give you an example. If I own a gym or a chiropractor or whatever, and I charge $100 a month, and I don't capitalize, my balance sheet is very small. If I charge $100 a month and I have 100 clients on a 12-month membership, I have $1,200 per client of asset that is their membership, their receivables, right? And so there's some accounting stuff that I could but won't go into here that will reduce that number slightly. But now I can take that to a bank and get a line of credit, especially if I can show a history of collection, right? Now I can take that to a business broker and make my business valuable enough to sell or to invest in or any number of other things. But what I can't do is that without doing that. And if you're not that person, if you don't have memberships, or if you're just starting out, if your credit card has a 20% interest and your business returns about 10% APR, you should not have credit card balances at all. In fact, before you even have a business, you should get rid of your credit card balances. This is something I've heard many financial gurus say over time, but I think it's worthy of restating. If you have a credit card balance that is 20% or 18% or 15%, and you don't always outrun that with the money you invest, stop investing and pay off your credit cards, because you're just treading water.
Awesome. Thank you. That's two great tips, very different, but create a membership so people pay every month and you can prove something, that your business becomes more valuable.
Yeah.
And don't spend more on your credit card debt than you make on your money in your business. Awesome. Great. Thank you. Now, if anybody wants to contact you, listen to your podcast, mastermind with you, how can they find you?
Well, first, if you've made it to this point in the conversation, there's a reason. It's because you identify with Florian and his show, and he puts his heart and soul into making this show. So the first thing I would ask you to do is go to the Money and Business Hero podcast site, like it, review it, and share it with a friend, because that is the only way that he will be able to continue to do exactly what it is that he's doing. If you still have any energy left, you can check me out. I'm on at www.spearandclover.com. My platform of choice is Instagram typically, although I'm on all platforms as Jason Skeesick and Spear and Clover. And also for your guests, I would love to invite them to come test drive our mastermind absolutely for free. We meet on the first and third Fridays of the month. We have a professional guest speaker followed by small group masterminding and breakout sessions. And I would love to invite anyone who reaches out to me through spearandclover.com the chance to try that out for themselves.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So please take him up on that offer. Go to spearandclover.com, like the podcast, and join Mastermind with him and test drive it at least. Thank you so much for coming, Jason. Is there any final words you would like to add? Something important we forgot?
No, Florian, thank you so much for having me. I think this has been a wonderful conversation, and I think you asked some insightful questions, some that I had not been asked before. So thank you again.
Cool. I'm very happy about that. Thank you so much again for coming, and thank you so much for listening. And I'm looking forward to seeing or hearing again in the next episode. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Money and Business Hero podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode and you got some value from it. Please take a moment to leave a rating, or even better, a review. That helps awesome people like you to find the show and me to produce more and even better episodes. And don't forget to subscribe. If you want to get regular free tips, tools, techniques on how to build wealth and financial freedom, or simply how to improve your financial life in all three pillars of financial success, join my free Money Hero Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/moneyhero. Find the link in the description, or find out more on the website moneyheroacademy.com. See you there.